Good morning, friends, and welcome back to Pollywog's Place. Today it's just Bella and me holding down the fort as the guys are spending some much needed quality time with Papa. And honestly, I'm grateful they have that opportunity. Family is one of God's greatest blessings, and making time for one another is always worthwhile. That leaves Bella and me to take care of the house, the animals, and the gardens today. It's not a bad thing. In fact, I enjoy days like this because they really give me a chance to pay attention to how everything is functioning. I can step back, evaluate our routines, and see if there are places where we could make things a little more efficient. As our homestead continues to grow, it's important to remember that life can change in an instant. And one day I may be the one caring for all of this on my own. So it's wise to occasionally ask, is there a better way to do this? Preparing isn't about worrying about the future. It's about being a good steward of what God has entrusted to us today. So if you enjoy slow living, gardening, homesteading, and growing in faith, I hope you'll take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. How do you stay organized when life gets busy? Have you found any little changes that have made your home, garden, or homestead run more smoothly? I'd love to hear your ideas and learn from you. So this morning, we're simply taking a quiet walk through the garden. No big projects, just observing, making a few notes, enjoying the harvest God has provided, and reminding ourselves that not everything has to be finished today. Sometimes the most productive thing we can do is slow down, pay attention, and trust God to guide our next step. As I walk through the garden this morning, I can't help but think back to some of our projects from earlier. One of those was our chop and drop mulch. It may not have looked like much at the time, but it's amazing to see how well it's worked. The lemongrass has already recovered beautifully, and honestly, that's been the only fertilizer we've added this year. Life has simply been busy. Sometimes we have big plans for the garden, but God reminds us that life is about so much more than growing food. Family always comes first. This month has been filled with unexpected appointments and responsibilities that have taken us away from home more than we expected. Add in the summer heat, and much of our extra time has been spent making sure the animals stay cool and comfortable. And that's okay. The garden teaches us that seasons change. Some seasons are full of planting, others are full of harvesting, and some are simply about faithfully caring for the people and animals that God has entrusted to us. In Proverbs 16:9, we're told that the heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. And that verse has been on my mind a lot lately. Even though the garden hasn't received as much attention as I originally planned, God has still been faithful. We've enjoyed several harvests already of delicious pears, berries, grapes, collards, peppers, and beans. Not to mention all the harvest of tomatoes and salad greens and everything else we got earlier in the year. And now we're finally seeing our eggplants beginning to come on, which is exciting after waiting so patiently. And then later today, I plan to harvest some chaya for a special meal. It's one of those dependable perennial plants that just keeps giving year after year. So walking through the garden right now, I'll admit it looks a little wild. Some might even call it a jungle. But honestly, this is one of my favorite times of year because our perennial plants really begin to shine. And I've learned not to rush through pulling every volunteer plant or every unexpected seedling. I like to watch and see what grows where because the garden is always teaching us something. Ground cherries are a good example of that. We have never intentionally planted them, yet every year they somehow find an empty space and decide that's exactly where they belong. Nature has a way of filling empty places. As I walk, I'm also making a mental list. There are trees that need to be restaked, vegetables that probably should have been harvested yesterday, a few places where trellises would probably make life easier, and before long, it'll be time to think about succession planning for the next season. The list is always there and it's always growing. But I've learned that not every item on the list deserves my worry. There are also unfinished projects everywhere I look. Our shade pergolas still don't have shade cloth, The back porch still needs a roof, and there are improvements I've wanted to make for months. Years ago, these unfinished projects would have weighed heavily on me, but now I see them differently. They'll be completed when the time is right. In Ecclesiastes 3:1, we are reminded that to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. God's timing is rarely our timing, but it is always perfect. Instead of stressing over everything left undone, I'm trying to focus on faithfully doing what God places in front of me today. In Matthew 6:34, Jesus tells us, "Take therefore no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof." That's good advice for the garden and for life. There will always be another weed to pull, another fence to repair, another project waiting its turn, but those things should never steal our peace. When we allow God to direct our paths, we can work diligently without carrying unnecessary burdens. Proverbs 3:5-6 tells us to trust in the Lord with all our hearts and lean not on our own understanding. In all of our ways we should acknowledge Him, and then He shall direct our paths. So whether you're tending a garden, raising animals, caring for your family, or simply trying to keep up with everyday life, remember that your worth is not measured by how many things you cross off your to-do list. Faithfulness matters far more than perfection. Sometimes slowing down and walking through the garden is exactly what our hearts need. A reminder that God is still growing things even when we feel like we haven't done enough. Thank you so much for joining me on this peaceful morning garden walk. If this video encouraged you, I'd love for you to leave a comment and tell us one thing that God is growing in your life during this season. Your stories are always such an encouragement to us and to the community. Until next time, may your roots grow deep and your spirit stay nourished. God bless, and we'll see you again in the next video.